Welcome to the Fantasy Footballers Dynasty Podcast with Borg, Betz, and a Baller.
Welcome in. September 3rd here, Fantasy Footballers Dynasty Podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Borganoni, and I'm joined by Matthew Betz and League of Record draft champion. Well, at the draft, Mike Wright.
Yes. Hello, everybody.
Yeah, the games don't matter. Did you win your draft or not? That's what we're all about, right?
You always win your league at the draft.
Obviously. That's what happened last year for you guys, right?
No, don't worry about last year.
It went well, man. Sometimes, the draft board falls a way you did not expect, and it's like, but a good way. Sometimes it falls a way you did not expect, and it's all terrible. But the draft for League of Record went about as good as it could have gone, I'd say.
It really did. I'm Mike's co-manager, and us just talking through it, we talked about it beforehand, and then during, we're like, wow, this is going pretty well. Usually you're supposed to hate yourself after you draft, right? That's kind of like what
nothing matters. But we had some real good sweats of, you're like, hey, we see this player is falling. We're up in 4 picks. But we can trade picks in our League of Records. Like, do we go? Do we trade this pick? Do we go get it? And you're just, okay, we're going to hold. I mean, and it's full on, Gladiator? Like, or no, I'm thinking of Braveheart. Hold.
Yep.
Hold. And then when you hit on one of those, oh man, it feels so good.
The way that the League of Record works is it is a 3-keeper system, but because draft picks are involved, each year it feels closer and closer to a semi-dynasty league because people are literally going all in, and you can tell people that are rebuilds, people that are not, like we were. And so it's interesting. I'm explaining the league to every single person. They're like, show me the draft board. I'm like, that won't help.
It won't make sense, yeah.
Because Andy's team won't make sense, but at the end of the day, I think the spirit of a keeper league, this is a dynasty show, but a lot of what we do in that league feels like it reflects the principles that we talk about here.
Yeah.
About not overvaluing youth, but being willing to go in on certain players and certain veterans and go on little runs. Like, I was explaining to someone about Andy. He was in the title game in back-to-back years. That is very hard to do in this league, considering draft pick trading and all of that. So it's not the easiest league to be a part of. On this episode, we're going to get you ready for week 1 and really the entire season. We're going to play a little game called What Would You Do, which, depending on our audience, I don't know if that reference is going to hit for a lot of people.
Are you talking like a what would you?
Yeah, like Mark Summers.
Oh, man.
That'll hit enough people.
What else?
You think so?
What other reference is it connected to?
Well, so there's a TV show more recently called What Would You Do that was like on ABC. There's also the city.
Oh, was that with the kids?
They put people in like
them.
awkward, uncomfortable situations, and like they test to see if you would intervene to like help people, or just like turn the blind eye and look away. And it's like a hidden camera. So like somebody's like shoplifting or something, and you're in the store and you see it. It's like, what would you do? Like those sort of situations. But yeah, they do often involve kids.
Are you a snitch or what?
Yeah, exactly. Are you cool or not? They actually do often involve kids, which I think makes it more like, I can't believe that guy didn't help. It makes it more of a show. But yeah, that's not what Kyle's referencing. Come on.
No. I was referencing that song by City High. What would you do if your son was at home?
Mm-hmm.
That one?
Yep.
The hip hop song?
Okay.
No.
And he's hungry.
There you go. And the only way to feed him.
I know what you're doing, man.
We won't sing the rest of the song, but we will go through a couple of different dynasty situations. And one of the main questions that I get from people is, I have this tier of quarterback, or I have this tier of running back. What should I do? Should I upgrade here? And in every situation, it's league dependent, but we're going to talk about some of those situations here. If you had this combination, or if you're in Superflex and you feel behind everyone else, what would you be willing to trade to tier up? So we'll talk about some of those different players. If you want all of our rankings, our Dynasty startup rankings, I'm staring at them right now. You can get them part of everything we do, especially if you're a Foot Clan Ultimate member. I think people don't realize that you get access to everything we do. So the DFS pass that Betz and I get to put our heart and soul in, They never raise the prices. You guys have never done that. I don't get that business decision, Mike. But everything we do,
Well, quiet. We might have to do it eventually.
it's been a while, Betz.
I'll believe it when I see it.
Betz, where are we with the props? Are we still sneaking a few of those in?
Oh, brother. We are sneaking a lot of those in.
Because last year you ran uncomfortably hot.
I would recommend fading every single prop we take this year. Based on what happened
last year was just too good.
Regression is going to come. Yeah, we started to release those actually yesterday on Tuesday in the Discord, and that the article tracker for that is up on the website. If you're part of the DFS pass, so yeah, that all comes with it. There's no extra like props subscription or just DFS. It's all in there.
Yeah, it's not the most sexy plays. A lot of times it's taking unders on players like Van Jefferson or backup tight ends. But that's where we found we've had a lot of success over the years.
Talking about backup Van Jefferson?
Oh, yeah. Second string, old man veteran, probably off the team later this year.
Could not beat out Aya Manor.
It's a good sign. It's a good sign if you've got the rookie in Dynasty.
Yeah, and Andy's been, I feel like, over and over and over again bringing him up. And I'm like, is this really going to work? But it's only been trending in the right direction over the last, month or two. So
drum beat's pretty good.
So you can get all those props, everything, if you're a Foot Clan Ultimate member. I did have a quick question for us today.
I'm so excited! I'm so scared!
Another 90s pop culture reference that really is one of the most iconic shows from Saved by the Bell, and iconic moments
yes,
of Jesse Spano.
Back when there was a very special episode.
Stay tuned.
Whenever someone had a big problem, a big to-do, it was always on this week's very special episode of Saved by the Bell.
We grew up in a really fun time, people. I don't think people realize how gifted we were of live TV and being glued to the TV with your family. Like, I'm watching this show. Or before school, I'm watching Saved by the Bell. I wanted to use that because heading into week 1, is there a player in Dynasty that you are excited for? So you're so excited, but you're also so scared of. So you can pick one of each, but we're going to keep this focused on Dynasty and maybe some players that you have. So Mike, kick it off.
So, I mean, come on, boys. We are all so. Is that your first time getting that, Betz?
No, I heard it before, and it was something.
The deep brain scratch. That is for none other than Isaac TeSlaa, who, I mean, look, when the Nasty Boys hit, it's a different kind of dopamine hit. And it feels so good. And the drum beat has been fantastic for him of, making a play like I think every single preseason game to the point of the team trades Tim Patrick away. And it would be pretty surprising to me if he is not the wide receiver 3 on the team, in the first couple weeks. He may already be there. I'm not quite sure if they have released that information yet, but it's just really exciting to watch where, what kind of the impact on the offense can he make. And then a player I am scared of, because I have no idea which way it's going to go, and is DeAndre Swift, because people are holding bags of Swift, which process-wise should make so much sense. He is currently the lead runner for the Chicago Bears. We love Ben Johnson and the offense that he has created for it. It's wild when you really zoom out and you look at which offense, not just teams, but which offensive philosophies and trees give us the fantasy points. And it's like the Shanahan, McVay, those trees represent like half of the fantasy points out there. And it's like, can Ben Johnson be one of those guys? But the running back room hasn't been talked about very much. Roschon Johnson was there was absolute nothingness this entire offseason. He felt like he was going to be a sneaky player of, can he turn into a David Montgomery type? Because, go back when Ben Johnson had DeAndre Swift, he insisted that Jamal Williams would be this inefficient running back who still got a whole bunch of touches and then all those touchdowns. and then it just vanishes off into the sunset. It's like, could that be Roshan? And you're like, well, could it be 7th round pick Kyle Monangai? It's just none of these guys are really getting talked about, and Swift is just there, and he might be awesome, but he also might be DeAndre Swift, who's not a very good NFL running back. He's just a talented athlete. So I am very nervous to watch Swift because I have no idea which direction we are going to go.
If he's on your roster, there's a good chance that you are left holding the bag at the end of the year of a player that falls out of favor, that they don't care about, that they cut next year. Or the other end of the spectrum, this is a good offense with a rebuilt offensive line, and like he's a valuable player, like he's a top 15, top 20 running back.
That's what I mean. Like, what other players are you looking out there at the running back position where you're like, if that guy finishes in the top 10, I won't be surprised. If that guy finishes outside the top 40, I will not be surprised. Like, it is all over the place.
Honestly, one other guy that adds to that list, I feel like Breece Hall fits that category, where he's just so good talent-wise and can catch the football, but like the Jets feel like they want to win every game 17-13, and like they're like excited to do that this year. It doesn't seem like the best environment, right? And then you also have the Braylon Allen committee thing that's been going on, so he also feels like a guy who's all or none, basically.
I feel that way about Pollard. That like Pollard could just volume his way to being a top 15 back. He also could just be on a really bad offense, and he's 28 years old, and he's not a player I want on my roster next year. I don't know. I don't really have Tony Pollard, but when I'm staring at like RB2s that I could acquire, I have a list of guys in Dynasty. I hate putting him on the list, but he's there. Same thing with Aaron Jones. It's like, okay, I'm glad I have him if I have him, but he could be super valuable. All right, Betz, who's a couple players for you?
All right, let's keep this excitement going. Week 1, Emeka Egbuka against the Falcons. Are you kidding me, Kyle? I mean, some are saying it's tough to play in that building, and that's a great environment. The Benz is going to be rocking, as Kyle likes to say, but it seems like the runway is cleared.
The Benz?
Mercedes-Benz.
Is that okay? I heard a different word at first, and I was like, Kyle,
it's never rocking.
Clean it up.
It's really not. The joke is that it's a loud environment because we used to pump in sound. Remember, they got like It's not.
It's not sad, but Week 1, awesome matchup. We've all been so excited to see if this camp hype is real and how good he could be. And this is a matchup that on paper looks awesome for him, especially when you consider obviously no Chris Godwin, no Jalen McMillan, all those things. So I'm just excited to see like how much of the pie does he get in his first game. And then the opposite side of that spectrum, this more comes down to like Puka and Devontae Adams. If you have Adams as a contender, or if like Puka is one of your key pieces this year, like how does Stafford look in Week 1 specifically against the Houston pass rush, which some people will say is the best in the league. So the health reports on Stafford at least are trending in the right direction, which is great. I still think it's a very, very volatile situation that could change in an instant's notice. I mean, he hasn't taken any hits, right, this August in this preseason and training camp or anything like that, so who knows how that's going to go. But if you have Puka and Devontae Adams, I feel like you're going to be holding your breath every time Stafford drops back.
You could probably write the Week 1 overreaction article right now about like Stafford just couldn't hold up under the pressure, and here's what happened, and what do we think about Puka? And Devontae Adams only had 3 catches. It's like there's so many different things that you could forecast based on that matchup. It was terrible, by the way. They were top 5 in EPA per play. Yeah, I would be terrified if I was in a startup and I took Puka. We still love the talent, but there are so many things that could change within a year. Like there's a percentage chance that McVay just says, I'm done. Or there's a chance that a couple of these players on this roster turn over. So a lot to think about and overthink over the next little bit. I'm excited, and I don't know if you're excited, Betz, about Drake Maye.
Who?
You've talked about Drake Maye pretty much every single day over the last 6 months. And in a league that I have, it's a Superflex league. He's my QB2, and I'm like, what if I have a top 6 guy?
Oh, you will.
What if I have some?
I know it. You will.
I hope he runs, 30 yards a game. It's really not asking much. That's like Daniel Jones level for his career, but I think you can get more than that. And this is an improved offense. So I'm excited to watch Drake Maye. They have actually a pretty good schedule. They open at home against the Raiders. And then I am scared out of my mind, as much as I want George Pickens to be a thing, like what if he's still just not a thing?
Yeah.
And I'm just sad.
I get it.
I'm just sad.
Well, especially the way that the schedule opens up, this game against the Eagles on opening night, you get the jitters of the whole entire world is watching you. The Eagles are just a superior team. Like things, we hope not, but things that Thursday night could go very poorly for the Cowboys.
And if it does, don't overreact. Right? We brought this up on
that is correct.
Previous. I don't know if it was this show or when Kyle and I talked on DFS, but like remember week 1 last year for Jahmyr Gibbs, and it was like, of course, everybody's so excited for the season. This is an island game. We're all watching, and Gibbs gets or 2 years ago, I guess it was.
Are you talking
2 years ago? Yeah, when he was a rookie, he got 6 or 7 touches, and everybody freaked out.
Yeah. That was
so no matter what
he was
happens,
like a 4th rounder.
Yeah, no matter what happens, good or bad for your players this week, it is a data point. It is not what is going to happen the entire season.
Yeah, like last year, Terry McLaurin was a bum in week 1. And you're like, oh, well, rookie quarterback, it's obviously not going to work. This isn't a player I want on my team. He's old, he's aging, and of course he puts up an awesome season, 13 touchdowns. Drake London was the same. Week 1, Drake London was, this is the same old story. This is exactly how it is. But Pickens, I have him, and I'm trying to figure out if he's at peak value right now, or am I going to hold and just stay with it like I have the last 4 years, and then he gets a bag this offseason and it goes through the roof?
Yeah.
Is that where you're at, Mike?
Yeah, I was going to say that the George Pickens year is going to be emotionally taxing if you have him. Because it's going to be up and down of like just what happens this year, and then all the eventually. Halfway through the year or something, like speculation will start going of like, okay, what's going to happen with Pickens? Are they going to, if he's having a good year, like, is Dallas going to re-sign him? So that's going to be in the back of your head. Or you're like, oh, I want him to go to free agency. I just want to see what's out there. And you're like, so it's going to be wild. If you have Pickens, you better buckle up and just get your rest, because it will be really tough on your emotions.
Do you guys know his highest season-long finish so far? 3 years into his career.
What, in the 20s?
It's in the 20s.
Yeah. But I mean, he was like, 1,100 yards that year?
Mm-hmm.
27.
Yeah.
26. Okay. I've felt it. I've lived it. I mean, part of it is the touchdowns. He has 12 in his career.
Yeah. It's wild to have 1,100 yards and you're not a top 24 wide receiver.
Last year, he was leading the league in end zone targets, gets hurt, and then kind of slowly fades away from a lot of what we remember, but volatile player. And in Dynasty, he feels like the DJ Moore, where it's like we all like him, and yet he hasn't finished higher than where we've ranked him.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see about that. Let's take a quick break, and we'll be right back. All right, the goal of this episode is going to be to give you a roadmap. Essentially, over the next couple of months, you're going to have to make a ton of decisions for your rosters in Dynasty. What do I do at quarterback? How do I get more depth at running back? And we're going to address some of those things so that before the season, you know what to do. You understand, like, here's my roster. Here's how I can assess it. So we're going to get through some of those questions right now.
What would you do?
Who knows? Where is that drop from?
I don't know, but I had to reach deep in the archives.
That exists?
There are some funny ones, Mike, that I'm definitely going to pull out only on this podcast. Only on the Dynasty one do we get to find these drops. Do you have any memory of making that?
No, none.
None whatsoever.
All right, let's start at quarterback. And we're going to first start for 1 QB leagues, and then we'll move to Superflex, kind of talking about our different tiers that we have in the Dynasty Pass. But really, in 1 quarterback leagues, and I want you guys to kind of look at your rosters right now too, in 1 quarterback leagues and assess where you're at. But the question is, do you have a difference maker, or can you cobble it together in a 1 quarterback league? So the difference makers that we have in Dynasty are the obvious kind of top 5. The same reason in redraft, right? It's Allen, it's Lamar, Jaden Daniels, Hurts, and Burrow. If you have those guys, you can look at your roster in a 1-quarterback league, especially in a 4-point league, where if you have a mobile guy, it feels even better. If you have one of those guys, you can kind of check that off and say, okay, I have a difference maker. But I think a lot of people are stuck in this ambiguous area of, I don't have one of those guys. Should I stay where I'm at? Should I go after the top tier? Or can I kind of cobble it together and find one or two options that really bring me forward in Dynasty? Because nobody wants to trade for quarterbacks or trade them away in a 1-quarterback league. It's just, it just doesn't happen very much. So I'll let you start first, Mike. I know that you have Burrow in one of your leagues. You have that, but how do you feel going into your leagues this year? And then what advice would you give people about cobbling it together?
So in my personal leagues, I'm pretty overexposed to Joe Burrow. But let me check this last one, because I just did a startup, and that one I ended up with a lot of guys. Actually, I went shotgun at quarterback because I waited so long, but I went Kyler, Caleb, and Dak. And so I went the approach of, okay, if I have a stud, maybe I just go with one backup. You got to make sure that they don't have the same bye week. Pro tip, because you don't want to stumble into that week and realize you don't have a quarterback. But if you got a reliable high end guy, maybe you only need one backup. Otherwise, I'm essentially streaming between those guys. But when it comes to cobbling it together, in a 1-quarterback, you definitely can. The year I won the championship, I started that year. This was 23. I started with Kirk, and I started with Burrow, and both of them were doing well. And then Kirk Cousins tears his Achilles, and then Joe Burrow goes down in week 10 to the elbow thing. So I had to piece it together. I ended up making a trade, of Kirk plus some stuff to go get Jared Goff, and then the waiver wire was more kind that year. Of like, I got Browning. Was that who's that the backup?
Some people think he's better than the starter, but
oh my gosh, stop. So Jake Browning, got him, and Joe Flacco. Like, if you are active, you can find guys to piece it together, and you don't necessarily have to trade for one of the high level guys. You can, as you're going along, see who's performing, and they're not really a valued quarterback, and then look at their schedule, and then make some lower level moves there. You don't just have to say, oh, you can only win if you have an elite quarterback in single QB, because that is just, it's not true. You can figure things out with the right matchups and the right guys.
Yeah, I agree with that for sure, especially when you consider, I think, right now the state of the quarterback play, at least. I mean, it's always on paper good entering week 1, but like, I truly feel like we have some real diamonds in the rough here from a fantasy perspective. These guys aren't like complete sleepers, but if you had, two of like the Drake Maye to Jared Goff range, Cam Ward range, like, I would feel really good about Maye, Kyler, Caleb, Baker, obviously. Brock Purdy, I feel like people are kind of forgetting the ceiling he's shown with a fully healthy group of weapons, and CMC in the fold and all those things. They have an unbelievably easy schedule this year. Stroud, I think, can bounce back this year. We like McCarthy, JJ McCarthy. I think Trevor Lawrence, even though Kyle is out on this, take with Liam Cohen, I think he could surprise us and have a low-end QB1 finish. So yeah, you need to kind of like piece together maybe like 2 of these guys to try to match the top 4 or 5 guys in your league. So I'm with Mike. I do think this year in particular, it's a really interesting strategy for single quarterback leagues. The other guy that is a really tough evaluation for Dynasty is Justin Fields, right? Because they gave him that like 2-year deal, but it's really not like true starter money. So like, if it doesn't work out, they can move on. And once guys start to kind of do what Justin Fields is doing, which is kind of bounce around the league, generally that trend isn't great for long-term success. But for this year, if he's the guy and he's going to run,
tell it to Sam Darnold.
That's true.
Matthew
Darnold did surprise some folks last year, obviously. But Fields for sure is one of those guys that, like, I feel really good about in redraft. I'm unsure what the future holds in Dynasty, but he's another name to throw in that mix that could give you some ceiling performances as well.
And the quarterback, I'm going to mention Tua real quick, because Tua, especially in a Dynasty league, it feels like everybody is just completely out. I get the concussions it's scary. It's horrifying to see it actually happen on the field. And knowing that this guy has, missed a lot of time over the course of his career. But a reminder of people, week 1 last year, top 10 quarterback. Then the concussion happens. He's kind of getting things back together, but you had a 4-game run of quarterback 10, 2, 5, and 4, like 20 plus points in 4 straight games. It's a little bit, Mario Party roulette bank of you're either going to get double your coins or you're going to get half your coins. So it's not a perfect situation, but it's a quarterback who I think his market value does not come anywhere near close to what he can actually put out for your team. Very dangerous, volatile player, but if he does remain healthy, which I think there's still a good chance that Tua could just play all 17 games. And if you remember where the market was, just recently on Tua, we were very hot and bothered for him. He was a guy that people actively were pursuing, and then the concussion thing popped up. So just keep him in the back of your mind as that's probably a low investment player you could go get and get some starts from.
I want to find the cutoff point for, one quarterback leagues and Superflex where you guys feel comfortable. So for instance, I'm going to name a quarterback and you tell me if you feel comfortable with them as your QB1 and you don't have much else. So for 2025, would you be comfortable with Caleb Williams as your QB1?
I would like to have an insurance policy.
Okay.
Yeah.
So not.
The
way you phrased it.
You can't ride naked with Caleb. It's not going to work.
That's how I feel too.
It could work. It just feels dangerous.
Yeah. And so what we're saying is, man, he sounds like a better QB2 in a Superflex league for me at this moment. We could be having a different conversation a year from now. What about CJ Stroud as your QB1?
No.
Kind of the same boat as Caleb. I'd like to have a second option.
Yeah, like if you had CJ Stroud and Trevor Lawrence, you would feel okay mix and matching that?
Yeah, I'd feel okay with that.
Okay, let me give you one more. Would you feel fine with Jared Goff as your first quarterback and then you don't have anybody else?
Okay-ish. Better than the other guys, honestly.
Yeah, I would feel good about it. The tough part with Goff is that I think there's a pretty good chance last year might be his best statistical season, potentially of his career, that we'll see. Just with the potential regression coming on his touchdown rate and those things, you shouldn't copy and paste what happened last year, but this is still a great offense with great weapons and all those things. So there might be more ups and downs compared to what we've seen in the last year and a half or 2 years, whatever it's been. But I do think he is still going to put up somewhere around top 12 numbers.
What if I told you that he, in year 3, Matthew, had a higher points per game than he did last year?
Really?
Just slightly.
Okay. So there I was pointing out.
Because he snuck a couple rushing touchdowns in. So
sneaky Jared Goff with those rushing scores.
It helps out. But point being, Goff, he's going to give you some real calamity games where David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs rush in 4 touchdowns. You're like, the Lions have 30 plus points and Jared Goff did nothing. That will happen a couple times this year. But when when you're building your team with Goff as your quarterback, you're hoping that you balance that out with stronger starters. And I think Goff is a decent floor play, and he has a ceiling that not all quarterbacks have. Like the Jared Goff ceiling is much higher currently than Caleb Williams, in my opinion.
What was the 5 INT game he had last year, and yet they came back and won?
Oh, was that the Bills game?
Oh man.
Oh, that was against Houston.
Oh, Houston, that's right.
Let's see, 5 INT, yeah, Houston.
Completed 50% of his passes, still threw 2 touchdowns. It was a wild ride.
Dude. Oh man. That's minus 10. Oh.
All right, let's go to the Superflex then and say,
all right,
where do you feel uncomfortable with this player as your QB2? Okay, so Obviously, all the guys we just listed, we'd be like, that's great if they're my QB2.
Yep, that's perfectly fine.
How do you feel about Penix as your QB2 in a super flex?
I feel like I'm going to say I feel fine to almost every single one of these names.
I agree. Yeah.
As the 2?
I'm good with Penix as the 2. I'm even good with Bryce Young as your 2. Fields as your 2 is nice.
Darnold
makes me nervous. I'll be honest.
That's what we do on this show. That's
the goal.
We're honest.
If we're honest, what would you do?
If I'm lying, I'm good with Sam Darnold.
Let me tell you what I don't
QB2.
believe. Sam Darnold will be great this year. I obviously see a world where he just continues what he did last year, but just, going from that scheme, that weapons in the dome, everything we talked about this offseason, I would be surprised if he repeats going to this team where they're going to be a little bit more run heavy and, all those things. So Darnold makes me a little bit nervous. And we talked about it too with the contract, right? Like, it's kind of not a great dynasty investment. It feels good because you see the money, but really they can get out after, I think, just 1 year, right, Kyle?
Correct.
So he, even for looking for a starter long term, I'm just not sure that he's locked in there.
I'm weary.
Would you rather have Geno or Sam Darnold as your QB2?
We all love Geno, though. I
think I would take
We've always
Geno.
loved
We do.
Geno.
We're suckers.
Well,
fine.
Plus, Cam
Aaron
Walker is going to be running in
Rodgers.
for, 14 rushing scores this year.
Yeah.
So
Minimum.
obviously,
Would you take Rodgers or would you take Sam Darnold?
I'll take Darnold.
Just this year. I'm not talking about long
Darnold.
term.
There's a problem with investments of some of these quarterbacks, like Fields. We like Fields for fantasy. We like him on a per game basis. And yet in Dynasty, I see people saying, I need to find a third quarterback. What should I trade to get Fields? And I'm like, I don't encourage people to trade for a third quarterback at this point in the process. Now, you might look at that and say, hey, that's not playing a safe strategy. That's just me saying, hey, I'm going to ride with my 2 quarterbacks and see what happens. But I just don't find players like that have a maybe 1 year window to say, I need to go trade for them. Like, there is a point of the season where you can trade for them. And if you want to do that, feels like somebody in, early October that you can go, okay, I see how this is working. The other manager knows he's not a long-term asset. You can trade then. But like when he was named the starter, I'm like, great. If you have Fields, you're so excited this offseason. But I don't feel like you should go in right now. Do you guys feel the same thing about a QB3?
Yeah, especially with Fields, I don't. Man, I hate the phrase of you're like, I got to see it first, because once you've seen it, your prices are up. So that's part of the game of the speculation of you're going to get things right and wrong. Is just are you more comfortable sitting back and watching the price go up, or would you rather go in early, pay cheaper, but you there's a chance you're wrong?
yeah, I think the whole QB3 thing in Superflex, like, obviously it'd be ideal to have a third quarterback that you feel really good about on your roster. And if you've built the right way, whether it be, through a rookie draft or what have you, that's great. But the problem is, right, there's only really honestly, 29 guys that you feel good about even considering for a QB2 spot in your starting lineup. And so obviously if you're in a 12-person league, that starts to run out quick. So you don't want to make the transaction just to do it, because there will be, unfortunately, injuries across the entire season. There's also a couple benching potential situations that could happen, right? Like, we're not super excited about the Saints quarterback, but Tyler Shuck probably makes starts at some point this year. There's a non-zero chance Jalen Milroe is making starts at some point this year for the Seahawks. Jackson Dart is the obvious one for the Giants. So,
Dart is for sure starting games this year.
Definitely. So I would be careful about trying to make sure that you lock that up right now entering week 1 before the chaos of the NFL season happens, because it definitely will happen, and there will be opportunities, whether it's the waiver wire to get a QB3, or once solidified, here's where my team ranks after week 4 or 5 as far as my record and where I'm at in the standings, I can really go for it. Or if you're on the other side of the fence, maybe look to either sit it out or trade away some guys.
That's why I love Anthony Richardson as my QB3. I have no expectations. He can do whatever he wants.
I do actually think he's a really interesting, if you are going to trade for a quarterback 3 and you want to, he's another one that I could definitely see starting games this year, even if, Jones stays healthy.
I can't tell someone to trade for him. I mean, if they want to trade with me, that's fine. But
What would he
It's
even
more of like
cost
a
right now?
luxury.
What would he even cost right now?
I don't know, boys.
More than he's worth, probably.
You tell me.
In a
I got him
Superflex
in a
league?
Superflex. Don't ask where I took him in a rookie draft.
Yeah,
but
we're not going to
come
talk about that. Would you trade him away for a second?
on. I'd think about it.
You would.
I'm interested.
I probably would do it. I probably
Yeah.
would do it because at this point, like I don't need him the way that I did a year or two ago. So that sounds right. Let's move to running back, because as much as we talked about the quarterback position being one that you'd like to tier up, tearing up at running back is so hard. It just
Yes, it is.
it doesn't happen because everybody in your league can sniff out whatever age curve you think, they don't know about, or, hey, this is a young player. I'm not trading Travion Henderson in a league. I had a bunch of people over the last 2 weeks try to trade me for him. And I go, why would I
What?
ever give up this player? Like, and they were some big boy deals. Like we were talking,
Okay, you weren't getting lowballed?
no low balls,
getting
but
actually-
like it was one of those things where in the trade, we were trying to figure out at wide receiver where to tier up. And then Henderson somehow got brought in the conversation. And I'm like, I just can't see myself wanting to trade down at running back after having this player and waiting, because he's a top 10 dynasty running back already for us. And that's a really rare asset to find. So at the end of the day, I look at our rankings and I start to look at the guys that are in like the 11 to 20 range. It's like Chuba Hubbard. I would be very glad to have him on my team. But in Dynasty, like I'm not tearing down to Chuba Hubbard from Travion Henderson. It just doesn't make sense. So really the question for a lot of rosters is, do you have three, and I'm going to use air quotes, starters? Do you have three players that you can fill out in RB1, RB2, and flex? And I think people don't realize it's rarer than you think in Dynasty.
Yes.
Like
It's extremely difficult.
the rest of the rosters are barren.
I mean, if you're playing Dynasty, you have to have realized this when you're like, oh boy, brother, look at this. I need a running back. And then you just start going through the teams systematically of like, who can actually be a trade partner here because they have a surplus of running backs? The answer is nobody. No one has a surplus of running backs
Exactly.
to trade you. And that's why it's the thing of like, you have to find a manager who's willing to tear down their running back when people don't have running backs to do that with. So it's a very difficult proposition.
You are paying for guys that you might feel uncomfortable with. Like, I don't think they're worth this, but the market is squeezing out every last penny from a lot of these veteran running backs and guys that can be RB2s, RB3s, like Jaylen Warren. Like right now, you could put him as your RB2. It's not the sexiest play, but you can go into week 1 and go, man, I feel good about this player. You also could clearly cash out, but I have him on a roster where he's my RB3, and I'm like, beyond that, it is just, there's nothing on my roster. So you have to kind of assess the rest of the league, and I think most people don't do that. They just think, oh, I need a running back. You and everybody else, they all need it. So let me ask you some questions about some of these guys that are RB2s, and how comfortable are you for right now? Because in Dynasty, they're shaky. So Betz, Isaiah Pacheco. How do you feel about him if he was your RB2?
Not great, if I'm honest. Not great. I think,
As a 2?
yeah.
Wow.
I mean, I think there's a chance he could be totally fine as an RB2. But I think when you look at the totality of what kind of has transpired over the last like year and a half from the injury, obviously he's healthy now, so I'm not saying any of that is going to factor in here, but like there was a point in the KC kind of landscape of how they viewed Pacheco where it was like, he is getting everything. Even in their playoff runs, he was getting everything when the game mattered the most. Then that was a lot of the conversation was like, okay, this running back is going to get all the touches this year. And through 2 weeks, he did. Then the injury happened. Now he's in a contract year as a former 7th round pick. So if you're a contender, like, sure, I guess it's fine. But I have zero clue like how the team feels about him long term when, they re-signed Kareem Hunt and they drafted somebody on day 3, and like they kind of have this committee behind him now. So I think that they're giving themselves outs to either move on or make it a committee this year if they feel like they have to do that. Whereas last year and the year before, he was getting everything. So I think his workload projection is extremely fragile this year, and I could see it going any direction, quite honestly.
These running backs, so like he's in a contract year. Swift essentially to me is in a contract year because they can cut him next year. He's not like tied to the Bears forever. Tony Pollard's in the same spot. Like they're in these weird spots where a year ago, I think you needed to make a call on those players. Like we were talking about Pacheco after year 3 in the same breath as James Cook, Kenneth Walker, Kyron, like who's going to get an extension, who's not. And now he's in this weird in-between liminal space where you're like, I don't know what to do with this person.
Did you guys realize how old he is?
I know he came in. Well,
Pacheco's turning 27 this March.
Wow, in the final year
gotta
of his
cut
rookie
him.
deal, huh?
You got to cut him.
So
This guy's going to be out of the league tomorrow.
Can't cut that guy. But I mean, a 7th round pick going to market, and he will be hitting the age that, unless you're like an outlier running back, you're like, it's probably better to move on at least a year too early. So, man, but if you got to make a decision here on Pacheco. Are you guys? So, would you try to flip him, Betz? I mean, you're not even comfortable with him as your RB2. I think you could spin a tail for Isaiah Pacheco and maybe try and go get a lower tier running back. But oh man,
Yeah, he feels like one of those guys that has a lot to either gain or lose very quickly. Where it's like 3 weeks into the season, you could be like, I can't believe I sold Pacheco. He's getting everything, and the Chiefs are great again this year. Obviously, I see that world. There's also a world where it's like we turn on the Chiefs game in a few days, and all of a sudden, Kareem Hunt's in there more than you thought. And by like the 4th week of the season, this is an extremely pass-heavy team, and he's only in there for 50% of the snaps, getting 10 touches a game, and you're like, well, now I'm stuck with this like low-level flex play. What do I even do? So whenever those scenarios present themselves, to me, generally speaking, I try to take advantage of the uncertainty where I know I can get value in Dynasty. It's a different conversation than redraft, because in Dynasty, I do feel like it makes sense for me to move on if somebody in my league is like valuing him as the definite guy for the Chiefs. I'm for sure willing to see what he can get in a trade.
What's so interesting is that he's the same age at this stage as Ramondre was last year, but Ramondre got the contract extension. And I remember making the call in a league before that contract saying like, this is just bad vibes. He's entering year 4. I think he's inefficient. And people are so I traded him away, and then I felt like an idiot right after the contract extension.
How do you feel now?
I mean, I'm living large, man. I got Travion Henderson. But my point is they're at the same age of their career, same stage as an older running back entering year 4. That over time, what Betz is saying is like, I'll make that bet on this player at this stage in their career. Now, if you're a contender and he's your RB3, you don't have to trade him. It's just like, I'm going to get volume. It's a good team. I'm just going to stay with it. But he's the type of player, Pacheco, Swift, we talked about earlier, Jalen Warren, we talked about Tony Pollard, that they're short-term RB2s. And for this year, I think you'll be okay. But don't be afraid to flip those guys at some point, because let's say one of them starts out hot. What's the most you could get for Pacheco? Like, could you get a late first-round pick if he's just balling out as a top 12 running back?
If he's balling out as top 12, I bet you could.
Yeah, even despite the age.
Yeah.
I would.
Because
and if you can do that,
said,
I would.
No one has a surplus, and people at the trade deadline, if they're making a move, not many teams will be sellers, or I mean, whatever. Half the teams are selling, and those half that are selling, do they have a running back even to sell?
Correct. And some people might be hearing that and be like, that's crazy. There's no way Pacheco. I'm going to list you some other veteran running backs that they will be more valuable if they're not hurt at the trade deadline. James Conner, who has the easiest running back schedule for the first 6 weeks. Okay. He's old. And yet I bet if James Conner is still humming, you could get a first for James Conner. Alvin Kamara has the easiest running back schedule for the first 10 weeks. Bad team. And yet Alvin Kamara just stays alive. That's who he is.
What do you make of that tweet?
What did he? I posted it. What was it again?
WTF?
I believe he just a WTF. No
context.
No commentary. Just what's going on here.
Do you think like he just was watching a movie and there was that heel turn moment that he was like, oh my gosh, Vader is the father. Like it changed everything for him.
That had to be it.
Something.
These athletes have to know, man. You may not want this power, you may not want this responsibility, but you have it, and you need to stop vague tweeting. It's not fair to the rest of the world.
Yeah, it's not really our thing. Betz has had a thing. Mike's noticed this, but Betz is like willing to basically tell people they're out of the league, or like any news that happens. Betz will recently just say like, "Well, I guess Caleb Johnson's career's over."
Oh,
I mean, Jalen Warren got a 2-year extension, buddy. You tell me.
Guys, it's unofficial depth chart season, but we got to react live because this just came out a couple minutes ago.
Uh-oh.
The Washington Commanders running back depth chart. What do you think it looks like?
Is it Chris Rodriguez?
Who is RB1?
Eckler.
I'm gonna guess Rodriguez.
Okay.
I say Eckler.
Austin Eckler, RB1, unofficial depth chart. RB2, who is the RB2?
Chris Rodriguez.
Jeremy McNichols.
Oh man.
RB3, who is the RB3?
Now we're talking
This
Chris
is the
Rodriguez.
Chris Rodriguez.
That's Chris Rodriguez, which puts Bill Krofsky
Come on, Bill.
as the running back. Look, it's unofficial, but that is the Jeremy McNichols. That's just that could just be a troll job by Washington, but that's very funny.
I'm pretty sure Jeremy McNichols wins the award for most number of times I've added and dropped a player in Dynasty, because he's been on my roster 1,000 times.
Dude, he should have been somebody, but he was not.
Coming out of Boise State? If it's a Boise State running back, I'm just going to have him on my team just because I want them to be Doug Martin or somebody else.
Madison.
Or Madison every single time. That guy's never even played a snap. Have you seen, all these other guys? McNichols, way more fantasy points than Genty so far. Anyway, let's take a quick break and we'll be back with wide receivers. We are continuing to answer some questions about your roster and the way that you construct them, and then also think about, as you head throughout the season, how can you adjust? So my first question, and maybe you guys can look at your rosters, is do your wide receivers fit your scoring format? It can be a little bit in vogue to say this player is better in best ball, this player is better in half PPR, or my entire life, I know that Keenan Allen has been better in full PPR because I've had Keenan Allen every single year's career, and I love him. And so when you look at your roster, what type of player archetypes do you have? Do you have only players like Cortland Sutton or what was super frustrating last year, Marvin Harrison, where you were happy in the games where he scored a touchdown and you were very unhappy in the games where he didn't? It was abysmal for Marv, like 4 fantasy points per game in games that he didn't score a touchdown. So you have to kind of figure out which players are better in PPR or better in half PPR. So for instance, if you've lived through the Garrett Wilson experience, if you don't have full PPR, it is so frustrating with him.
But in full PPR.
Like beyond. Oh, full PPR, I'm happy. Chris Olave? I'm ready to get hurt again, but apart from full PPR, it's been a disaster. Like a disaster, hoping every single year he could be something really, really great. There are other guys, when you look at your roster and you say to yourself, if I have Jerry Jeudy, it is not the sexiest player ever, but you're going to get a crazy amount of volume when you look at the rest of your roster and saying, I'm not really counting on Jerry Jeudy, but I bet he's going to see 7.5 targets per game. And that's pretty rare to find in your wide receiver 3 or flex position. So kind of assess your roster and figure out which players are better in certain formats. George Pickens, like half PPR or
all formats. All formats.
Standard.
It's happening, Kyle. It's happening.
Great in standard leagues.
George is happening.
You think?
I know.
Okay. I think what's hard about players like Pickens or guys like Garrett Wilson is we basically use history and say this is what they've been, and so this is what they will be forever.
Right.
They can't catch touchdowns, or they're only good in these certain matchups. When you look at your roster and you figure out what you need at your wide receiver position, so you should have 4 or 5 guys that you feel like, hey, I can mix and match based on what my opponent has and based on what I need each week. And I wrote down a list of players that I'm calling double flex all-stars, meaning these guys I think are undervalued in Dynasty that I think most of the time you can flex. So tell me how you guys feel about some of these guys that might be a little bit deeper on a roster. So for instance, Rashad Bateman. How would you feel about him in a double flex league?
I think it's fine. I mean, probably more of like a bye week fill-in type of play for me than like I don't want to have him in there every single week, obviously. But bye weeks, injuries, I think he makes sense in that scenario.
The Ravens, like they just can't quit Bateman.
They paid him again this offseason.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's such a weird career that Bateman has had. So a double flex, yeah, I'm with Betz. I don't love it if I'm weekly relying on him, but as a guy on my bench, I can see what's going on, and then bye week fill-in, I think he's a great player for that.
All right, what about Cedric Tillman?
Man,
as long as Flacco's chucking.
That's the thing is, what does the Cleveland Browns offense look like? Does it look anything like the last time we saw Joe Flacco on this team? And I'm not talking about the efficiency. I'm talking about just the numbers. Like, which the Joe Flacco chucking numbers were not that far off from Jameis Winston. And, it's, as of right now, it's Jerome Ford and then Dylan Sampson as like the leaders of the running back room. Are they even going to be able to afford to have a running game? Like, or will they try to establish the run at the beginning? The other team just eventually goes up by 2 scores, and now we have to throw for 3 quarters. So if they are anything like what they were in the past for Joe Flacco, then Cedric Tillman, it would be a double flex all-star. I'll take it.
Yeah. What about Romeo Doubs? Just to get Mike moving a little bit.
Come on. You know how I feel. I like Romeo Doubs
in your snaps
more than
league?
I should. He's so weird because whenever it's the last resort for the Packers, he's good. But then they're like, okay, you go back. You were like, we've had enough of this. We need to get you as the last resort again.
Contract year.
Yeah, it is. And they have, there were some rumors floating around. I don't know if you guys dove into these bushes, but there was like some Aaron Rodgers is courting Romeo Doubs and all of these things. And you're like, okay, that makes total sense. The Pittsburgh Steelers could probably use a real known commodity at wide receiver too. Not that Roman Wilson can't become that guy, but those were going around. The rumors were floating around, and then LaFleur was like, no, Romeo Doubs is not going anywhere. So, of course, guys lie, but like for a coach to come out and just say definitively, no, like this is not going to happen. And I actually believe I don't think this is not Jerry Jones. Like I believe that this is what the plan is for the Green Bay Packers. So Doubs is he's too important, I think, to what Green Bay is doing.
Especially right now.
Who knows if he'll ever come through for fantasy.
Like, given the context of Christian Watson with the ACL and Jaden Reed's foot, like, they need him to accomplish their goals this year. So, I'm with you. I think he's going to be a part of the offense, and it's not sexy, and, he's not a guy that you want in your lineup every week, obviously, but same as Bateman, like, a very solid, like, wide receiver 3 flex play for you in the right circumstances, in the right matchup, I think makes a lot of sense. And one of those guys that you show people your roster and it's got Romeo Doubs on the bench, it's not going to look great. But
no,
will give you more production than perceived value in the market. So I agree with you.
What about Hollywood Brown? He feels like in no man's land. They brought him back, so it's not like they just like felt sorry for him. While Rice is out, he seems like he's going to be a near, 75% snap guy, which is very Romeo Doubs-esque. And he did everything in practice this week. I'm searching for players.
At the end of last year, I mean, Kyle, I don't know if you have his like targets per route run. It had to be outrageous.
It was 40+% for those
because
last
it was
couple weeks.
a game of 27% of the snaps with 8 targets. I think, look, we're talking, these are nasty boys here. I think for a double flex in the meantime while Rice is out, Marquise Hollywood Brown, or I have to say it real quiet, Juju. I have to whisper it.
That's
It's so
that's
Hit the
not even
button.
nasty. That's
Hit the nasty button.
disgusting. That is
Oh,
Mike.
you want it again? Just saying. There's a rumor. Like, guys, I go to dark places on Twitter. I go to all the rumors because I want it all. But there was a floating of like, hey, Juju's going to be in the Rice role for this offense as Rashid, does his suspension. It seems really far-fetched, but we are in Dynasty where Juju's probably on waiver wires, and there are definitely teams out there who are like, just give me hope with someone I could put on my bench week 1 and find out some information. So I think that someone is going to be worthy of a double flex, not a wide receiver 2, but someone from that team I think will be worth the double flex that is not named Xavier Worthy.
It's Hollywood Brown. That's what I just heard.
Look, that's where I'm putting my chips. I had to whisper the other parts.
I wish we had a vomit drop because I don't feel. Usually I'm cool with whatever. That I didn't love.
Guys, yeah, but you understand this is on tape now. So the victory lap.
Oh yeah, you have nothing to lose from that take.
That's right,
dude. When Juju goes 2 for 25 and a touchdown on Friday night in Brazil, you know who to talk to. Okay, you just tag Mike on Twitter, say this guy's a genius. 2 for 25 and a touchdown.
Maybe just put him in a DFS lineup.
That does feel like a Juju stat line.
Juju did have a week last year. I'm going to look this up while we're recording, but he had a week where he was like really involved. That's what it was. Okay, week 5, he saw 8 targets and he went 7 for 130. Then they go on bye. Mike, coming off the bye, I don't know if you remember this, Betz. He was the most popular play on DFS.
I do recall that.
What do you think he did that week?
Nothing.
Oh, we got a goose?
He goosed. Of course he did.
Yes.
I love that kind of stuff. Last little question here I have for wide receivers is, are you counting on rookies at the beginning of the season? Because we've done the studies. We have an article on the site. Is there a rookie bump? And when you look at rookies over the last 15 years, there's a improvement from a volume standpoint over the second half of the season. So I'm looking at some rookie wide receivers that maybe you took in the second round of your draft that are probably going to start really slow. And I'm going to list these names if you guys want to add another one. But Jaden Higgins, Luther Burden, Jack Besh, Kyle Williams, all of those guys are probably going to start out a little slow. Maybe they catch a touchdown, maybe whatever. Maybe I look like an idiot. But from a snaps perspective, I feel like they're going to be a slow burn, and you don't have to give up because in week 1, they're not a thing. So it just, when you look at your roster and you look at those players, take a long view. Okay, Justin Jefferson, we've said it before, like did nothing the first 2 weeks and wasn't
all those guys you listed, there's no way I'm plugging him into a starting lineup in week 1. If it happens in week 1, okay, I'll be ready to make it happen. But with Burden and the weird Zacchaeus stuff, like that seems like that's going to be short lived. There's no way that Zacchaeus can keep Luther Burden off the field, at least in my estimation. Jack Besh, what?
Well,
what?
The meetings suck right now, by the way. The meetings are terrible.
We had a good run. We had a great offseason. We had a great draft season with Jack Besh. And I don't, maybe he just stinks. Who knows?
Senior Bowl was hot.
That was the highlight of his career.
It's so bizarre. And Kyle Williams, I think it'll be slow, but I do think that Kyle Williams will get his way onto the field and be the wide receiver 2 before the end of the year. But I don't know if that's like 10 weeks in or not.
Yeah, the other name that stuck out to me, not on our sheet here, but also Pat Bryant for Denver.
Oh, I think Pat Bryant might be week 1.
Okay, yeah, we'll see. I mean,
I'm not playing him, but I'm saying I don't put him in this list because I think that could happen very fast.
I like that.
All right, so as we close, I did want to mention this last little kind of what would you do Dynasty roadmap thought before the season, that if you are holding on to picks for this next year, 2026, 2027, whatever, I caution you to slow your roll on putting names with those picks right now, because before the season, before college football, there are so many articles out there, including some really big publications from really big names that said, man, 6 quarterbacks are going to be drafted in round 1. We haven't had that since 1980, whatever, 83. And if you watched any college football, it wasn't the best after 1 week. So if you were like, man, I'm going to tank for this player, Arch Manning, or another one that did very, very poorly was Jeremiah Love of Notre Dame, who a big name person said he would go in the top 10 of the NFL draft before this season. There's so much to sort out, people. So don't just like say, I'm tanking for this player, or should I trade this because I'm taking this player in my Superflex league? Every year we give the example, but Spencer Rattler and Sam Howell were projected to go number 1 overall before the draft. And now, like, they're irrelevant.
I mean, Shedeur Sanders was projected to go number 2 like a month before the draft this offseason. Right? So you really don't know what's going to happen between now and April.
And that's okay. Like, part of what we do is we focus on the NFL. I know Betz and I watch a lot more college football. I'm in the SEC country, so we watch a lot. Betz watches too much Penn State football. We watch a lot of stuff. But like, even in our evaluation process, I am not putting these players in as, oh, I bet he's the 105 in Dynasty in March and April. It's just not part of our process, and I don't think it's helpful. I do have a list that I might on the show peek in every once in a while, but I have a list of here's all the prospects, here's what people think right now from consensus boards, and then my goal is to show you how much it changes week to week and how much it changes over the next 6 months. So don't just this last little tip. If you're holding on to a lot of draft picks, that's awesome. My early take is that the 2026 class is fine. It's not great.
I could be wrong. I think that's the general consensus. But there's always, don't we say that every year? And then, like, we get to the rookie draft and you're like, oh man, this could be the next, and you fill in the next Hall of Fame player. Like,
yeah, I mean, it's 2027 from what I am hearing, but I imagine that has to do with a wide receiver from Ohio and a wide receiver from Alabama.
Those two are awesome.
Yeah, and you're going to hear every single person talk about those players for the next 2 years. I'm going to take for Ryan Williams. You know, this is what I'm doing 2 years from now. So much changes, people. So much changes. So we will be back next week reacting to week 1. I'm sure we will have the best of takes. We will be level-headed. All of our Dynasty teams will be awesome. You're going to be great with us.
Well, mine definitely will. So I'm not worried about that at all.
With Juju.
Well, yeah, of course. Goodbye.
Thanks for listening to the Fantasy Footballers Dynasty Podcast. If you want to take your Dynasty skills to the next level, check out thefantasyfootballers.com.